Hello, I am back with you right now reading chapter 19, Down the Rabbit Hole. Now this is a longer chapter, so I am going to have to split this one into two parts as well. I will post both parts of the chapter at the same time so you guys can watch them right together. Alright, here we go. The twins and their friends traveled into Alice's adventures in Wonderland safely and took in the newly formed environment. Once again, Connor picked up the book and tucked it safely away, this time into Lester's saddle. To quote my friend Amelia Earhart, "Boy, am I glad to get off that island," Mother Goose said. "I won't be surprised if Tinkerbell gets herself kidnapped on purpose just to get away from those awful children." "Is this Wonderland?" the Tin Woodman asked. "Doesn't look very wondrous to me," Peter said and crossed his arms. "In fact, it looks just like the English countryside." "That's because it is the English countryside," Alex said. "Trust me, once we get to Wonderland, you'll know it." The countryside was very picturesque. Rolling green hills and trees of all kinds surrounded them, and a quiet river ran beside them. It was very comfortable outside, and judging from the different shades of golden leaves, the twins figured it was the beginning of autumn. They heard noises coming from down the river and realized they weren't alone. A young woman escorted a little girl out of the trees and across the stone bridge. They appeared to be in the middle of an argument. The twins and their friends hid behind the trees and eavesdropped. "We mustn't leave the bank at a time like this," the little girl fussed. She was a very pretty child and held a small cat in her arms. She wore a bow in her hair and a lacy apron over her dress. "Alice, I'm taking you home to Mother so she can put you down for a nice nap," the young woman said. She was pretty too, an older version of her sister. "You're the worst sister in the world," Alex said. "If you had seen the flying pirate ship, I would have believed you. Dinah saw it and it gave her quite the shock, the poor dear." She kissed the cat's forehead and cradled her tightly. In Alex's defense, the cat looked utterly freaked out. "Then I'm afraid you've both gone mad," the sister said. "Now come along. If you mention the pirate ship one more time, I'm going to have a word with Father." The sister took Alice by the hand and they crossed the bridge and headed home. "We're definitely in the right place," Connor said. "Certainly are," Alex said. "All we need now is the—" Something white and fluffy suddenly dashed across the countryside in the distance and caught their attention. "What is that?" the Tin Woodman asked. "That's our ticket to Wonderland," Alex said. "Quick, everyone follow the rabbit." The twins, Tin Woodman, Peter, Mother Goose, and Lester sprinted into the countryside after the furry animal. He hopped along the dirt path and dashed into the trees. It was hard to follow him with all the leaves and tall grass obstructing their view, but luckily the white rabbit paused every few hundred yards or so. He would remove a golden watch from the pocket of his waistcoat and check the time. "Oh dear, I'm terribly late," the white rabbit said, and raced deeper into the countryside. They chased the white rabbit over a tall hill and into a small valley. They all gasped and came to a halt. The enormous Jolly Roger was laying on its side in the valley. Thankfully, the ship appeared to be vacant, as if the pirates had parked it there. The white rabbit hopped into a hedge and climbed into a wide hole under the hedge's roots. The twins and the others caught up to the hedge just a moment before the rabbit disappeared. They stared into the rabbit hole while they caught their breath. "Before we go down there, it's important for everyone to know a few facts about Wonderland," Alex said. "Oh, now she decides to give us a heads up," Mother Goose said. "Wonderland is a place of trickery and confusion," Alex said. "Nothing makes sense and nothing is as it seems. We have to stay together at all times, so never travel too far away from the group. Don't trust a word anyone says, no matter how friendly they seem. Wonderland will drive you mad if you aren't careful." They all took a deep breath and rallied up some courage. "On the count of 3, we'll jump inside," Alex said. 1, 2, 3. They jumped into the rabbit hole and fell down a long dirt tunnel. They fell and they fell, faster and faster, but there was no end in sight. They started seeing cupboards and bookshelves peculiarly placed along the walls of the tunnel as they went. They assumed this meant that they were getting close, but they were sadly mistaken. "Are you sure this is the right rabbit hole?" the Tin Woodman asked. "This one appears to be endless." "I'm positive," Alex said. "Then let's speed things up," Mother Goose said. She shaped her hand to look like a gun and fired an invisible bullet into the space above them. Bam! A huge explosion went off, pushing them down the tunnel at rocket speed. The blast rattled the tunnel, and all the cupboards and bookshelves fell off the dirt walls and down the tunnel after them. The twins and their friends finally reached the end of the tunnel and landed on a soft pile of leaves and twigs. They looked up and saw an avalanche of carpentry headed straight for them. "Look out!" Connor yelled. They jumped to their feet and dived away from the pile of leaves. Cupboards and bookshelves from the tunnel crashed to the ground and created a mountain of broken wood, glass, and teacups. It piled so high it blocked the rabbit hole. "I hope we aren't planning on going back that way," Mother Goose said. They found themselves in a long and low hall. The walls were lined with doors of all shapes, sizes, and colors. There wasn't a single doorknob that was alike. Mother Goose, the Tin Woodman, and Peter tried opening the doors, but they were all locked. "None of these doors will open," Peter said. "It's all right," Alex said. "We're not using any of them." Alex went to the back of the hall where a curtain hung. She moved the curtain aside and revealed a tiny door that was about a foot tall. She looked through the tiny keyhole and saw a beautiful garden on the other side. Wonderland. "This is the door we need," Alex said, and she got to her feet and looked around the hall. Now there should be a golden key somewhere. Alex found a glass table pushed to the side, but there was no key on top of it like she was expecting. "Oh no," she said. "Uncle Lloyd must have taken the key with him when he passed through. We'll have to find another way in. Everyone stand back. I'm going to enchant it." Crash! Without instruction, the Tin Woodman kicked the small door open. "Apologies," he said. "I figured this would be faster." Alex looked like she was about to kiss him. "Good thinking." "How are we going to fit through the door?" Mother Goose said. "Lester will never squeeze through something that small." Lester gave her a dirty look as if to say, "But you will." "There should be a bottle somewhere that makes a shrink." "Oh, here it is," Connor said. He found the bottle with a ribbon tied around it on the top of the glass table. The ribbon said, "Drink me." Connor uncorked the bottle. "Bottoms up," he said. Just as he was about to take a sip, Peter knocked the bottle out of his hands. It hit the floor and shattered, spilling liquid everywhere. "What did you do that for?" Connor yelled. "We needed that." "Connor, look at the floor," Alex said. The others backed away from the spill. The liquid rotted the floor, turning the checkerboard tile to a nasty brown. "I knew that bottle wasn't from this place," Peter said. "That's from Hook's ship. It was poison. They must have switched the bottles knowing we were going to follow them." The twins sighed in relief. They were so glad Peter had insisted on coming. "How are we going to fit through the door?" the Tin Woodman asked. "I'll shrink us," Alex said. It had been a while since her powers backfired on her, and she hoped this wasn't the moment that would break the streak. She closed her eyes and focused as hard as she could. Alex pointed to each of them, and a light swirled around their bodies, shrinking them all to under a foot tall. Once she changed them without trouble, she shrunk herself. "Nice job," Connor said, and gave his sister a hug. The freshly shrunk group hurried through the smashed doorway and entered the gardens of Wonderland. Just as Alex had said, the others knew where they were the very second they laid eyes on it. They felt like they had entered a painting. It was bright and colorful, but everything was oddly proportioned, as if the world were filled with abstract pieces of art. Everything moved slightly, too, as if it were swaying in a breeze, but there was no wind. "Look at those flowers," Peter said, pointing to the garden ahead. The flowers were as extraordinary as they were disturbing. Each flower grew as tall as they were. They were gorgeous colors and had beautiful plump petals. However, each flower also had a face. They turned to the newcomers and watched them as they walked by. "Remember, they love tricking people in Wonderland," Alex whispered. "Don't talk to any of them." "Hello there," a rose said. "Welcome to the garden," said a tulip. "Wouldn't you like to stay and hear us sing a song?" an orchid asked. The group took Alex's advice to heart and walked past the flowers without making eye contact. They kept their eyes on the ground until they were out of the garden. "If I haven't seen that in a nightmare before, I definitely will now," Connor said. They looked up and their hearts beat with excitement. In the distance, on the edge of the wood of a very tall tree, they could see the White Rabbit. He had paused to look at his watch. "Oh dear, I'm so late," the rabbit said frantically. "I must hurry to the castle before the queen leaves." He dashed into the woods and they chased after him. The rabbit hopped down a paved path, but it was very difficult to follow him because the path had a mind of its own. It went sideways and curled upside down, and it coiled up trees, and sometimes it ended for no reason and they had to turn around. Unfortunately, they lost track of the White Rabbit and he vanished from sight. They took the path in the direction they last saw him and came to a fork. The path split in two different directions, and there was a large silver fork stuck in the ground. I'm going to pause the chapter here, and when I come back, we'll finish this chapter. I'll see you then.